welcome back to the Villa Filler podcast. I'm here, as always, with my good friend Dan Wiseman. How are you doing, Dan?
A little bit better, mate. I think, yeah, we were supposed to get this out yesterday. Didn't quite happen. I think, as we were saying, perhaps that's potentially for the better. I think the dust has sort of settled. And, yesterday, it all felt a little bit raw, but I'm sort of a bit numb to it now. Doesn't really, it was quite painful earlier on in the season, but the results like this now just sort of, I'm sort of hardened to them now. I don't know about you, mate.
Yeah, no, I'm the same. And I think it's quite telling, really, that we can. I mean, we could have hopped on the podcast yesterday, and I think we would have probably been more annoyed than we are now. But like we've said many a time on this podcast, and I don't want to continue to echo what we said on previous podcasts, but we didn't expect to win, and it is just getting to a point now where it's just becoming a bit more of a chore to watch the Villa. And it's, the Bundesliga's ended, so that's one less league that we can watch to try and take our minds off it. And it's just, I'm totally with you, Dan. I'm a bit numb to it all. And, obviously for those who aren't aware, we lost 1-0 to Wolves. What rock are you living under if you don't know that, though? Leandro Dendoncker scoring the goal. We won't really talk too much about the game because it's all been said. And as well, as we've kind of said, we're doing this the day after, and if we were going for that kind of clickbaity, Villa are doomed, let's just talk crap about the team, we'd have made sure we got this out straight away yesterday. So this is as raw as we can get, and we're just going to talk about Villa and the situation, and just really where we can go from here, Dan. I think that's the plan for the podcast, isn't it?
Yeah. Look, I'm really grateful for the guys that have been tuning in, and I got to be honest with you, mate. Like, coming on after the Newcastle game, I feel a little bit bad just adding to the negativity, because for Villa fans, now it's so hard, and when I look at the Villa on my feed and stuff like that, I'm so desperate for just something a little bit different, because obviously everything's just all about the game and stuff like that. And I think, as you said, it would have been easy for you and I to come here, spend another half an hour spouting shite about how crap we were yesterday. But everyone speaks the same things. We can't say anything new at this point, and that's probably what I felt in the last couple of podcasts, is that we are just sort of repeating ourselves. Like, we've experienced this feeling, this is sort of the disappointment of the game yesterday. It would be easy to just kind of recycle that, but obviously, I think now we're starting to see, and if Football Insider can be believed, that the Villa board are finally managed. Finally thinking that perhaps it's time to look at Dean Smith and review his future at the club, and that's probably the most telling thing about it all, really, isn't it? Because the board have been so they've put so much faith in Dean. They've supported him right from, because Villa fans like myself, I think personally, the 3-0 loss at Vicarage Road back in late December was the point for me where I first started looking at Dean's position and wondering if he was the right man for the job. So the fact that we're here in June and this is the first that we've heard of the board looking at it suggests how much support that he's received from them. I think it's strange, at least, that it's taken this long for them to even consider the possibility of sacking him, given how poor we've been for such a long time.
I know. It's to say it's taken me by surprise would be a bit of an understatement, to be honest, when I saw the news, because and I know how you felt about Dean, and for people who maybe don't listen to the podcast, Dan has by no means ever been Dean out, but he's always been very sort of skeptical on the appointment. I think that's fair to say, isn't it, Dan?
Yeah, absolutely.
And I mean, even after the last podcast, I was talking to my dad, and after he said he listened to it, he was like, "Yeah, I can pretty much tell what Dan thinks about Dean Smith. He doesn't need to say exactly what he like. So, but I think we're at a point now where we've got 5 games left. They're against Manchester United, Everton, Arsenal, Crystal Palace, and West Ham."
Mm-hmm.
And Liverpool, sorry, it's 6 games. Forgive me.
The biggest one of all.
Yeah. And I think, honestly, what does sacking Dean Smith do now?
Mm-hmm.
Because, Yeah, we're still in a position where we're tied on points with West Ham and Bournemouth, albeit they have a game in hand because of the FA Cup fixtures that are being played this weekend, and just how the fixtures have been worked out. So we're still within touching distance, and I think that's the thing that we had trying to be. That's what we used to justify Villa staying up or potentially staying up for the past few weeks. The fact we've managed it, it's never been 2 points lost. It's been a point gained, and we started before the restart. We were 2 points behind. Now we're equal, and it's very much a race to survival, and it's a very slow one. It's a slow and painful race. But I think in a position now where, as I say, we've got 6 really difficult games. What do you gain from sacking Dean Smith? Realistically, because okay, you can either give it to John Terry. You may as well keep Dean Smith in charge. If you get someone in, like, dare I say it, Big Sam, even he's not going to keep you up against them.
Well, the thing is, mate, is that I think it's just been left far too late at this point. I mean, as you said, I love Dean Smith. No one wants, as you were saying at the top, no one wants Dean Smith to succeed more than me. I love the fact that he's a Villa fan. I love the he gave us, to use that old cliche, he gave us our club back, so to speak, after the sort of Dean, where Bruce sort of slowly sucked the life out of the club, and the football wasn't great, and we just sort of lost the identity and the connection. And having a Villa fan in the dugout and one that gave us the success that Dean did, and I love that. And I think after, especially what he's been through recently with Ron and his passing, and no one wants to see him succeed more than me. But I've always been very open to the idea of, I think in the Premier League, I question whether Dean Smith would have lasted this long in the job if he wasn't a Villa fan. Is my speak. I think that's given him a lot of sympathy, and I think that is deserving, because obviously you want to try and keep a man like that in the job. But no, you're right. At this point in the season, it just sort of confuses me, to be honest with you, mate, because I think I don't think any manager touches us with a barge pole at this moment in time. I think because we have got a decent amount of games left. The season is savable in those games, although they're very hard. But it's the period of time in which we play those games. Like, the season is over in effectively 3 weeks. Yeah. There's no manager that's going to come in. I think if you are to appoint a manager at this moment in time, you have to promise him the championship as well. And I don't think any manager realistically in this position takes that job, regardless of whether you promise him the championship, just because of the amount of uncertainty that we have such a fresh squad. So many players. Do they stay? Do they go? Obviously, the bigger names are going to leave. Your Jacks, your Jones, your Ties, etc. But there's a lot of players who are sort of a middle ground, and I think there's so much uncertainty about the club, the squad, and to be honest with you, mate, so many managers have been here now, and have failed, and we're sort of just. I get the feeling we're a bit cursed at this moment in time, and I think managers will look at how managers have come to Villa Park in seasons gone by, and have effectively, I mean, fair play to Steve Bruce, because I didn't think he'd get out of it, to be honest with you. I thought we'd seen the last of him, given the way that it ended with the whole cabbage thing and all that sort of nonsense. I thought that was going to be the end of him, and it's good that he's gone on to resurrect his managerial career, and his Villa days have almost been completely forgotten. But no, at this point, mate, I think it's so strange that it's happened now, especially when we had such a long break.
Yeah,
just
you could have brought someone in.
That's what I mean. Like, if you were going to make the change, do it then. When you've got a manager, when you can give him that long on the training pitch beforehand, and then he's got the 11 games or whatever it was that we had to play. That's when you surely make this call.
Yeah, and the timing doesn't make a lot of sense. Dean's been afforded a lot of time, and I think it's kind of split on Twitter, and obviously it's split on Twitter. What Villa fans are like, but whether you're Dean in, Dean out, sometimes they'll scroll down and there will just be tweets like, Dean Smith's my manager, and then I'll maybe stumble across one of yours or Elliot's tweets that is, obviously on the other side of that. But I think for me, promotion last year no matter what, Purslow and Dean and the owners can come out and say after the fact, promotion wasn't accounted for last season. Like, if Dean got us promoted, which he did, then it was a well done. You've overachieved here. Like, you really have. I think for anyone to come out and say that the owners appointed Dean with the view of him getting Villa promoted within 6 months, that's just pure delusional, because we were so far off it. Dean probably had 2 seasons in the Championship to get Villa up, and I think that's asterisked by a certain amount of money he'd have to spend. Certain players staying or going. Jack Grealish notably being one, and we've stumbled our way to the Premier League. I say stumbled. Jack Grealish has dragged us up to the Premier League. We've invested heavily, albeit when you look at it under more of a microscope, it's peanuts that we've paid for players, basically. Even the likes of Wes and players like that who we spent more money on. The money had to be spent, obviously. And I was having this conversation with some guys for one of the new sites I've been writing for, because for some reason they instigated a Villa chat, and then they were all like, "Oh, you spent poorly." I'm like, "Well, yeah, but we penny pinched and we kind of had to." And they were like, "Well, no, you didn't, because you spent 22 million on Wesley." And I'm like, "Well, you're not seeing the point. We signed Wolves' reserve centre back for £3 million, and we signed El Ghazi for £3 million, and we signed Jota from our rivals for £2 million, and Gary Gardner." So to say we overspent is a very unfair and inaccurate judgment on the business that we've done. Regardless of whether the business is good or not. Oh, apparently my internet is unstable. Brilliant. Just like my emotions. But we've done this business. And yeah, it's been very questionable, and Sousa has a lot to answer for. But I think, personally, Dan, I think Dean is the man. I think he's got one more season in the Championship, although I think he needs 2, really, to get this Villa squad firing on, the Dean Smith way. Because we've not seen that for months, really, have we? The full press. And yeah, we saw it against Newcastle, and someone commented on the last podcast and mentioned that obviously with the temperature and stuff, it's going to be hard to maintain a full press, and I totally appreciate that. I understand that completely. But it doesn't excuse the games where we didn't press fully. But I think Dean, he's not going to be afforded that kind of money. I think I was having a conversation with my dad yesterday, and I think, if you lose, as you said, your Jacks, your Johns, your Ties, Trez is going, Anwar's been linked with a move to Napoli, so I think there's a core in the squad that is good enough. I think if you give Dean a maximum of £30 million, and he has to sign 3 fast wingers, he has to sign a central midfielder, and possibly, I think that's all that Villa need, really, in the Championship. But I've gone off on a bit of a tangent here. I think what I'm trying to say is Dean needs 2 years. I think he's only going to get 1, if he's lucky, because obviously, if these reports are anything to go by, John Terry's going to be the manager till the end of the season, and that's just going to be a disaster.
Yeah. For one, I just want to completely disregard that as any possibility. I think, to be honest with you, he's probably the member of the coaching staff in which I bear the most frustration. I think sacking John Terry might be the best thing for his career, because I think his ego needs that dent. To be honest with you, I think he needs to. I think he feels slightly untouchable at Villa, and I know how frustrated other Villa fans were. I was frankly appalled by his lack of celebration against Chelsea. I think regardless of what you've got in the past and affiliations with that team, you don't play. Like if you're the one on the pitch scoring for Aston Villa against Chelsea, then I can understand you not celebrating against your former team. I think I quite like personally when players do that. If you're on the touchline and you're an employee of Aston Villa Football Club, you have been for 2 years. We pay your wages, and even if you don't like seeing Chelsea scored against, which I still understand, you still owe a responsibility to show your players that you're happy with them scoring. And I think the fact that he chose not to celebrate, given the fact that he's essentially assistant to the assistant manager, he's essentially Dwight Schrute in this. He's assistant to the regional manager.
Assistant to the regional manager. That's so accurate, because what does he do?
That is your job, mate. You're essentially you're an understudy. You're there to learn off Richard and Dean. And I think I like what he offered, and I would, I think at the time I completely get the appeal of adding him to the coaching staff. But no, I think, to be honest with you, he's grown far too comfortable for this club. I seem to, there's an air of untouchableness around John Terry that I don't like personally. And so, yeah, I just feel like the whole coaching staff has just sort of. The one thing I'd ask is when you look at the Championship last season, and I mean, I look at things slightly sceptically with Dean, and I look at the core of the squad that we had, and you Tyrone Mings, John McGinn, Jack Grealish, Tammy Abraham. And I'm like, that is, as Championship sides go, even the best ones that we've seen from years go by, I dare you to find a core of a side that is better than the one that we had. And whilst I completely agree, Dean was appointed in terms of just get us to the end of the season, finish respectably, places higher than where we currently are, go next season. There's no way that as you were saying, the owners came in and went, right, Dean, get us up this season, because it looked impossible at the time. We were kind of, even before Jack came back, and I'm of the opinion that Jack Grealish, as you were saying, got us promoted. I don't think it's any coincidence that the results peaked in return in terms of him coming back. And I think I just want to give a shout out, because some Villa accounts, and I'm not going to name names, but I think we all saw the account yesterday that was claiming we dropped Jack Grealish. But one Villa account I do just want to shout out is Villa Insider. I think it's Villa Insider. They sort of run analysis and tactical insight into these sort of pieces. Villa Analytics, maybe.
Villa Analytics, that's the one.
Yeah. Villa, and I don't know how true it is, but it's run by an 18-year-old lad. And I just want to give with him, if it is true, if you are 18, if not, whoever you are, I give a really good insight. Absolutely, and he ran a thread that I urge Villa fans to go and have a look at, because it's completely unbiased. There's no opinion. It just lays out the facts from Dean's appointment up to now and how he's fared. And I think last season in the Championship, we had 14 games without Jack in all competitions, and we won 2. And I just question how well we fare without Jack in the side. And I think so much of Dean's flaws have been covered up by Jack in that sense. Look, I look at the squad as a whole, and I think that there's so much talent there, and I'm disappointed not only with our performance in the league, but if we go back to the performance yesterday, mate, the one thing that I question, I think the players have to shoulder a lot of the responsibility. I think you can do all the tactical preparation in the world that you want, and to be honest, one of my fears is that we don't actually do that much, but you send the players out, and we were playing in the last few minutes without a real sense of urgency. We seem to just be aiming to draw our way to survival.
Yeah.
But one of the things which I find most frustrating about the performance, unfortunately, this does link back to the coaching, is that we're so slow. We get the ball and there's no go, and we sort of recycle the ball, and there's a half turn, and the passes aren't forward enough, and we sort of play this long ball, and there's a chasm between the strikers and the midfielders. We had 4 midfielders on the pitch yesterday, and I think Dean finally caved to the wishes of the fans and gave people the 2 up top that they wanted to see. I personally wasn't too sold on it, and I think we had 4 midfielders on the pitch yesterday, and the space between the strikers and the lack of forward runs and the willingness to get up there and support. I thought Keenan had a great game yesterday. I've got to shout him out. I thought he was unfairly taken off. I thought, considering the service he got, some of his hold-up play was exemplary. I thought it was quite harsh to bring. I think the only reason he got taken off instead of Samatta is although Samatta wasn't performing as well as Keenan, obviously he scored more goals for us this season. Yeah. And I think that's the only reason he got taken off. But Keenan Davies yesterday, and I think we saw he's quite a mild-mannered player. I mean, I know you love Keenan, mate, and
I
I
love
think you'll
Keenan.
quite agree that you don't. He's not an emotional player. He's quite
Yeah,
close and he's quite straight faced. And but yesterday was that moment where he got fouled by Willy Bolly, and he turned around, he threw his arms up, and he was screaming. And that's the first time I've seen that from Keenan, and that's the frustration at the system that he's being forced to play in. And I just worry, mate. And my only concern with Dean at this point, and it has been for a lot of the season, is that I don't think he's fulfilled any of the promises that we were offered. This free flowing attacking football, I don't think we've seen
no,
really at many points at all this season. And as I said, I first called for Dean Smith after that loss at Vicarage Road. I think it was on the 28th because I think 28th or 29th because I think we had Norwich at home on Boxing
yeah,
Day.
on
Then we
Boxing
went to
Day, yeah.
Vicarage Road, and that's the first time where I first started questioning this as to whether we were actually seeing what we were promised from Dean. And I think that's probably the most upsetting thing. But no, as I said, mate, at this point in the season, it just looks balmy to me, and I think you might as well give Dean the running. And I was after the Newcastle game. Both you and I spoke and refused to write off the chances of survival. But I just think after yesterday, when you look, we play Manchester United next at
They've looked
home.
great since returning as well. Like I know they've played some poor opposition, but they
No, I mean
look
they look
pretty
so much better, don't
unstoppable.
they?
Yeah,
Yeah, absolutely, bro. And you look at, are we going to put Nakamba or Horahan against Pogba and Bruno? How do you win that? How do you
yeah.
win that midfield battle? And then we go to Liverpool, and I'm not even going to bother, dissecting that or what that could mean for this Villa side. And you look at the fact that we've still got to play Arsenal, who don't look great. But they still turned up and they beat Southampton the other day. And do I think we're going to be able to get a result against Arsenal? No. Um,
Brighton
and then
scrapped for a result.
they
Quite
did.
literally.
Brighton played well, but Brighton have got far more about them than we do. They have the striker up front that we should have signed in Neil Maupay. I think I forget how much Brighton paid for Neil Maupay.
It
But
was nowhere near the quoted amount we were going to pay.
Well, that's what I mean. And like, I kind of look at Wes. Wes, I like. Both you and I have
Yeah,
stood up a lot for Wes, but Wes wasn't the right signing. Like, I
no,
like
that's
Wesley and
fair.
what he has to offer, but just don't think he was the right player. Like, we went up, we didn't sign a proven goal scorer, which I think you need so desperately to survive in this league. I don't think Wes fits the system. I don't think he's the type of player that Morpay is the striker that
Yeah,
Dean used at Brentford. He is the one that suits the Dean Smith system because he was in the original Dean Smith system. I think when you look at the contrast between the two sides, I think Samatta, when we saw him first come in under the signing, looked the kind of player that we've been missing, and I think there's just been so many contradictory elements between what we expected to see from Dean and what we were given that I think it's just caused the most frustration.
yeah. I think as well, in terms of going back to your point on the players, I'm going to reference The Last Dance, which I know is something we've both watched. You look at Michael Jordan, and that attitude is just, it's second to none. It's, I'm going to pass you the ball and then you're going to do this because it's your job. And you don't see that in this side. And I think Grealish has come under a bit of criticism from, he's always been scrutinised by a certain group of Villa fans for not being captain material. But to be honest, he's kind of proved that since this lockdown. He's not been the MJ of Villa. And in some regards, I don't blame him for acting how he did. I can imagine he'd be incredibly frustrated, and probably knows he's on his way out anyway, which is frustrating as a fan to know that a player can,
Mm-hmm.
get away with that. But I mean, I'd like to think if I was in that position, I'd be yelling and screaming at everyone, and just to do the basics, because Villa aren't really doing the basics. But I do think that the players need a bit more responsibility in terms of performances from the fans as well, because we're all quick to criticise or to scapegoat one player in particular, no matter who that is. But then I don't think we look at the collective, and obviously Dean as well. Dean's been getting a lot of the flack, but I think the players do definitely need to shoulder some of that blame. But I mean, yeah, it's just as you say, looking at how is Nakamba going to mark Bruno out of the game and Pogba? It's looking fairly grim, and I don't really know what else to say on the matter, Dan, to be honest. It's just it's hard to watch, but I'm still so numb to it.
Yeah, I think that's the thing, mate. I think ultimately it is a mindset problem. Matt Target, bro. Right, I'm not for a second a conspiracy theorist, right? I'm not saying that, but I've watched, as have you, and maybe you'll pull me up on this and maybe you'll call me wrong, but I've watched a hell of a lot of football, not just football, a hell of a lot of sport in my time. And I've never seen a player do a hammy 3 minutes into a match after playing a 5-yard pass. I've never seen that before in my life.
Not there even we do that.
There was no extension. Like I go down, mate. You and I will go for a kickback down the park, or whatever. We're not as finely tuned as that, but I don't do a warm up. I don't stretch. I play 5 to 10 yards passes. I've never even felt anything close to that. I've never seen a professional player do that. And I just question it. The fact that he did it at Molineux away as well. He went down injured. I didn't really buy into it then. I didn't really buy into this one. He did it. I was looking actually. He did it against Watford as well when he was coming up against Ismaila Sarr, who's just, he's a similar kind of player to Adama Traore. And I look at Matt Target. I just question: is that forgive me? I think this says a lot about the place that us Villa fans are in at the moment. But you mentioned that. The mindset that all of us saw when you watch The Last Dance and stuff like that. You don't need to be the best in the world to have that mindset. You can be like you and I, just you can apply that to any walk of life, any position that you are in, whatever job that you do. You make sure that you and the other people around you do it to the best of their abilities. It's not related to ability. I don't think. You don't need to be Cristiano Ronaldo or Lionel Messi to demand the best of your teammates, whether you're on a Sunday league pitch or the pitches in the Premier League. If you are a captain and you are in that leadership position, to demand the best of yourself and the players around you is surely the minimum expectancy. And I do. I don't think the problem is that nowadays in football, and just to sort of bring it back finally to that point that you raised on Jack. The definition of a captain in football has changed, and I implore people to try and understand this. Captains aren't your Roy Keane, your Vieiras. Those captains don't exist in the game anymore. You look at Arsenal this season, and whilst it's probably not a great example, you can give a captain's armband to a player to elevate them. Mesut Ozil has worn the captain's armband for Arsenal this season. Aubameyang has worn the captain's armband this season for Arsenal. This is a captain's armband that, as I said, is Vieira, Tony Adams. You look at the players that Arsenal have given it to before, but that you give a captain's armband. Fans can think of what they like of this or not, right or wrong, and whether they agree with this as a principle. It's modern football, and this is the way that things are. You give a player the armband to lead, not necessarily vocally, but just by example. And I think that's why Jack got the armband, is because he's the best player. And you give him that armband and you elevate his performances even more if he's the one leading his Villa side out onto the pitch and leading them towards survival, not just in terms of wearing the armband, but in his performances. That's why he's got the armband. It's not because he's a vocal leader. I think if we wanted that, potentially Tyrone gets it or someone like that.
Even he's been poor in terms of. I think the one thing we all expected with no crowds. Is to be able to hear the shouts and everything like that. But Mings is as quiet as a field mouse.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really
I've been disappointed with Tyrone, mate. I think he's got the England call up. I was so happy for him at the time, but I think it's the worst thing that's happened to Tyrone Mings. I think we've seen a definite change in the way that he carries himself. And mate, I'm a firm believer that. Right, as I was just saying, you have every right to believe that you're the best. Regardless of if Tyrone Mings wants to walk out onto the pitch and act and stroll around like he's the best centre back in the Premier League, as he does, then he's got every right to do that, because I want to see my players do that. I want to see them believe in themselves. And Tyrone, I think, plays with a confidence that far exudes his performances. And look, you can act like that if you back it up. And the way that Tyrone puffs his chest out when he walks into the box for the corner kicks, bro. do all that sort of stuff, but you have to back it up. You can't be doing all that if every time you get the ball, you're hoofing it 40 yards up the pitch to Keenan Davis. Like, be the composed head that we know that you can be. Play the cool passes. We know how good you are on the ball, and show us that. Like, I think he now tries to play, and this sort of references the mindset that the glory pass every time. He's trying to play the long 40-yard passes to Keenan Davis that get us up the pitch and allow him to bring the other players into play. When in fact, how often do you see Virgil do that? Virgil is so good at what he does because of, he's this imperious centre-back, similar in stature to Ty, nowhere near in ability, obviously. But, Virgil van Dijk does what he does because he plays the basics, and he's a centre-back and does so well at being that job. And, I think a lot of players need to take a look at themselves and realise the situation that we're in. And the way that if Tyrone is being instructed to play that way, then I apologise for what I'm saying, and that takes the responsibility off him. But I look at, and it's the mindset of this Villa squad and essentially the club as a whole, and I look at the fans, mate, and to sort of end on this, like I was speaking to a couple of my mates yesterday at half time, and they were like, "Yeah, that was good. That was better." And I was like, "Better, yes, but if we've come to accept that first half performance as good, it shows what we were average at best. We were okay. We didn't create anything. Rui Patricio was never tested. That shot that Jack had against Rui Patricio, which he calmly collected. I mean, I'd forgive you for forgetting it, mate. It was pretty forgettable.
Yeah,
he sort of cut him on the left, fizz one in, and it was just caught at sort of shin height by Patricio straight at him. That was his first shot since the restart. Not his first shot on target. His first shot since Project Restart.
Oh my God!
And that says it all for me.
Yeah, it's. I think that what I think hurts most is Jack Grealish will be leaving at the end of the season. I think even if we stay up, there's no chance he's going to stick around now because he's been given false promises. And, Dean and the team haven't delivered on what the owners would have said to him in the summer. And when he was given that new contract, probably was it last season? Something like that.
Go through about.
What's sad is we can't even, it doesn't even seem like we're going down with a fight. And it, first of all, for there to be no fans there is genuinely a tragedy. The last time anyone would have got to have seen Jack Grealish play live would have been Leicester away, and that's one to forget.
Yeah.
And just to see Jack so numb to it all, it's just really sad. It's not even like we can enjoy these last 6 games of Jack Grealish because we're bloody awful, and that's really sad.
Yeah.
And he deserves more, but obviously, as we've kind of touched on, he isn't immune to the criticism. I didn't realise that was his only shot since the restart. I don't even know what to say on that.
The thing is what's as painful as Jack for me is John, and the fact that we're going to see John McGinn go, and he never really got like Jack. And admittedly, as we don't get to see these last. He gave us a lot of crowning moments in the Premier League. Some of the goals that he scored and the performances that he put in, and we wouldn't have a fraction of the points that we have at this stage if it wasn't for Jack Grealish. And so he really did give us all this last season and some fantastic goals to go with it. But we didn't even get that from John because of the injury. Like, he's going to leave, and it's going to feel as though we never really got to see him do what he does best, in the league that he deserves. Because obviously the Championship, he was brilliant, but we all know he was a Premier League player, and we all wanted him to see in the Premier League and show what he offered. And because of the injury, we obviously he gave us a good start to the season. He had a better start to the season than Jack Grealish did. That game, the goal at Spurs on the first day and stuff like that, shows you that. But it's painful that we're going to lose John because we never really got to. And obviously he's not fit. He's not fit right now. He said it himself that he's not back to where he should be. We've put him up there because I think we just need him. But you can see from the performance at the work rate, the effort. I think he looks a bit timid in the tackle, and rightly so, because if he's not fit, then he shouldn't really be playing. But we're sort of forced to play him. And I think the fact that we're never going to really see John give us his swan song and give us the farewell that he deserves is probably equally as upsetting as Jack, to be honest with you, mate.
Yeah, I think there's forever. There's always going to be this what if with this Villa squad. and I think it's probably the second squad, certainly in our time, of following the Villa where we've fell short of expectations. Aside that look destined for greatness, if I think of the O'Neill era, like the 07 to 010 team, that is that's another one where you think they really fell short. But this one is at a much greater cost because it's of our wonderful club being relegated, and there will always be this unfinished business for me if Jack, Ty, and John will leave. And to be honest, I think even if they do leave, I don't necessarily think it's out of question that if we ever came back up that they'd be available. I think Jack's the only one who I think will excel much further than the other two, as we kind of touched on in the last podcast. Tyrone Mings to Arsenal. Okay, well, we may as well just get ready to announce Mings when we get promoted again. Like,
yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
I just, and as well with Dean as well. There's just so much, and I think, to be honest, Dan, we're going to be talking about this Villa side in 30 years' time to our kids, our grandkids, and it's really gonna hurt because when's the next Jack Grealish going to come along? It takes, at the current rate of production, it's like every 15 years, an academy graduate comes through like Jack. And there's just always going to be this what if. And it's just, I think what's sad about it as well is I know a lot of Villa fans, and rightly so, got annoyed at Graham Souness for saying that we were a yo-yo club, when in fact we'd only suffered one relegation in like 25 years or something like that. This is the start of that yo-yo, I think, to be honest. It's very difficult to get it right. We slipped out of the league when it mattered most to stay in it, and that would have cost us. And I think, as I say, there's always going to be this sort of romanticised, fetishized view of this Villa side, of what could have been, really.
Well, you look at the side that went down last time, mate, and you look at like we had the midfield was Idrissa Gueye and Jordan Veretout. Look at where they're playing now. Idrissa Gueye is playing for Paris Saint-Germain, and Jordan Veretout is at Napoli.
Roma?
Like Roma, yeah, sorry, yeah. Roma, yeah, and that, bro, like that tells you all you need to know, and you can see what's frustrating is that Gueye was the diamond in the dirt that season that we went down. I think we all the rest of the team was pretty nothing, to be honest with you. But we knew that Idrissa Gueye was a player, and he was a lot better than that Villa side. And none of us were surprised when he went to Everton, and he's exactly the kind of player, and he fits the new model of player that Paris Saint-Germain are trying to sign. But Jordan Veretout, I thought obviously we knew that there was a player in there, but I don't think we recognised the fact that he would go on to be a kind of a top four, playing for a top five side in the Serie A. But the annoying thing is with this Villa team is that you can see the players that we are going to be seeing in those sort of size, and your Douglas Luiz, obviously your Jack Johns and stuff like that. I mean, Anwar El-Ghazi is only 24, and I think whilst he blows hot and cold, I think I don't think he's necessarily cut out for the Premier League, but I don't think I think especially you were saying at the top of the podcast that he's been linked with Napoli, and I think a move to a foreign league like that, which is potentially more set to his pace, you would see him succeed, and you can see the players in this Villa side that are going to go on and have those illustrious careers. And as you said, I think that's what makes it most frustrating. And I think that sort of balances back out to transfer strategy, mate. And because we came up and we wanted to sign players that were young, had resale value, and had high potentials. And I think we made the error of not actually signing anyone that was in their prime now. And whilst
apart from Heaton,
Heats is a good example, and he's been one of our better performers this season. Obviously, the injury has ruled him out, but he was, the only error I can think of him making this season was in his first game. at home to Bournemouth.
Yeah, Bournemouth.
When he gave away that penalty,
And
and
maybe Bournemouth away as well, but it would be overcritical there.
yeah, I think he was certainly very consistent, to say the least. When it's a lot of points, made a lot of great saves, and I don't think we signed enough players like Heats. And look, as you said, mate, I think the most disappointing thing is this season is going to go down as a what if. What if?
Yeah.
Wes didn't get injured? What if Tom Heaton didn't get injured? What if John McGinn didn't get injured? What if we did buy Neil Maupay? What if we did make the move for Axel, Tammy? And so there's going to be so many. But this side is subpar on the whole. I think both you and I could definitely agree on
Absolutely.
that on the whole, this side is subpar. But there's to be honest with you, mate, there was a glimmer of hope for me after the Newcastle game. I was like, maybe, just maybe, this Villa side could just do something exceptional, just one more time. Maybe it has that last little, last hurrah, if you will, in them, and they could. But what I saw in that Wolves game, although it was only 1-0, and I think Dean, his press conferences for me are just frustrating as the performances, the acceptance of these performances, and the fact that he'll stand by them and just say that we were very hard to beat, we didn't deserve to lose. It's just completely nonsensical at this point. And I think just that performance as a whole, and just cementing for me that I just don't. Although mathematically it's still very much possible, obviously, just with the teams that we've got to play, I think we will be seeing us in the Championship next season, mate. And that's obviously, and I don't want to sound like a typical Villa fan saying that we have a right to be in the Premier League and because we're this big club and all that sort of stuff. This side, and seeing Villa Park with the top half of the Trinity Roads closed and that sort of thing just doesn't really sit right with me, and it pains me that we're probably going to be seeing our club play in that division again next season.
Yeah, and it's just it's our destiny, isn't it? The Championship. We've had our heyday. We'll go again in the Championship, to use a Steve Bruce colloquialism.
God, we really are about to
literally. And I was on the Villa View the other day, funnily enough, and speaking to Dan and Tom. Where was I going with this? That the thought has literally just escaped my mind. Oh yeah, that's it. We were talking about the Championship, and we were talking about it. It was before the show went on air, and we don't want to be in the Championship. Yeah, we had a good time in the Championship, but only when we were winning. I can tell you, I did not enjoy mine and my dad's trip up to Wigan when we lost 3-0, and he said he never wanted to see Courtney Horse play again. I didn't enjoy that, and I didn't enjoy going to Sheffield United away and watching us get destroyed 3-1. And it's fun when you win the Championship, and that's it. I don't enjoy going and watching Villa draw 1-1 at home to QPR. Anyone who thinks that's fun, you're psychotic. We want to be in the Premier League. And again, we don't have this God-given right. We're a big club, but look how many big clubs are in the Championship. But to anyone who's on the timeline being yeah, I can't. First of all, you're not even going to be able to go to fucking QPR away for the next 2 years. So you tell me you're going to enjoy watching Villa on fucking iFollow? No. I'm sorry, I've descended into a rant here, but fuck being in the Championship.
Keep it going. Yeah, bro. I see so much romanticising of the Championship.
Yeah. No, the only thing we should romanticize is Jack Grealish dragging us out of the Championship. That's the only good memory of the Championship. And everyone looks at, as well, there's a lot of the Sheffield United 3-3. That was a shit game. They switched off for 10, and everyone got really annoyed about Chris Wilder's comments before our game against them again. But he was absolutely spot on. We were terrible for 80 minutes, and his side switched off. And that can happen in the Championship. That can even happen in the Premier League. But I don't want to I don't want to be watching us on iFollow. I don't want us to be watching us in an empty stadium playing against Coventry when Callum O'Hare is going to, run us right, and we're not even there to feel the anger and frustration at Christian Purslow for not giving him a contract. Like, I don't want to be in the Championship. Like, no, but sure, I'll suck it up and I'll go home and away as I do every year and every week. But like, I don't want to be there. Like, let's not like portray the Championship to be this great thing, because one, they're going to introduce a salary cap. So all these players that we've got, they're pretty much going to go anyway eventually. When they have to, because they're not going to sit around on 15 grand a week. Which, why should they? But I'm like, I'm kind of looking forward to it, because part of me is like, Villa may win, but then I'm like, we can beat Wolves 4-1 in the Championship and then lose to QPR literally 3 days later. I'm not looking forward to that.
No, mate, I completely like, and this is what I mean, mate. Like, last season was great for 10 games. That was it. The rest of the season was absolutely dire. Like, this is we look back at the season. Unfortunately, probably the happiest time I had as a Villa fan. But we finished 5th in the Championship. Yeah, and that's this is in no way to contradict what you said last week, man. I was actually doing a little bit of thinking of what you were saying last week, and I put the question to you, like, when was the last time that Dean Smith's tactical know-how and his knowledge of the game won us points, and you reminded me of Burnley, and I wholly agreed. And I was thinking about it, and I was like, we won that game 2-1. And is a 2-1 win away at Burnley the best demonstration of the tactical knowledge and prowess that our manager has, and the ability for Aston Villa to survive in the Premier League? And it's a 2-1 win at Turf Moor, the most anti-football side in the Premier League. New
Year's Day.
Yeah, it's like, really? I hate that we're sort of going back into rant mode again, mate. But this is the annoying thing for me, is that it's been since O'Neill, like, there's just constant shite. There's mediocrity, just like one slip up, and then we have a little bit of climbing, it's just shite again. And then, like, I'm just like praying, and I thought this season would really be it, man. I was like praying for just one season of this uplifting and a chance to be proud of the Aston Villa Football Club. But we are sort of this cursed side at this moment in time, mate. And you're right. And I was speaking to a couple of mates. I was about this the other day, and I was like, no way am I renewing my season ticket. I'm not supporting this club in the Championship. Bollocks. I will definitely be doing that. You will definitely see me at Villa Park every game next season. As you said, I don't want to be there, but the fans will be there, and I know there'll be the initial disappointment as there were last time. But we go again, and look, mate, there's still games to be played in the Premier League, and I've just kind of gone into the mode where I'm just going to try and enjoy playing against Virgil and Sadio and Bruno and Pogba and all the great players that we have left to play in this Premier League season, because as you said, next season
against Jordan Hugill, and
it will be Callum O'Hare running us right next season, not Paul Pogba. And if I'm going to see and enjoy Villa getting run ragged by one player out of Callum O'Hare or Paul Pogba, I'm going to enjoy Paul Pogba. Callum O'Hare is going to frustrate me, as you said, a lot more. It's inevitable. It's going to happen. But look, I mean, I think there's change in the offing potentially, mate. I don't really want to see it myself. I think if you are going to make change, and I for one, I'm one of the people that do potentially see the sense in giving a manager and a different manager a crack at the Championship. Do it at the end of the season. Don't do it now.
Yeah, because I mean, this side's going to look so different in the Championship as well, as we've kind of touched on. So it's not like Newcastle giving Rafa the job when they were down and out the year we went down, because they very much kept that squad together, and he had a significant amount of time to work with it. And I think if you hire a new manager, I think we're still looking at 10 players who could leave. So, what's the point? He's just going to have to restart again with the new season. So, I think that's probably a good place to end the podcast, Dan. We've tried to keep these shorter, but I think we've descended into a rant, and it's been one of more of our longer ones. So if you guys have enjoyed, we would really appreciate a like and a comment. And if you're listening on Anchor, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, whatever your preferred podcast listening platform is, to subscribe and like and follow us. We've reached 1,800 subscribers, Dan. So every cloud.
Yeah. There we go. Got a guest coming on, I believe, as well. Coming days.
Yeah, we've got a guest coming on soon, so keep your eyes out for that. We've been waiting for
That'll be a nice one
for a long time. So, something just to take your mind off Villa. Whilst we'll talk about Villa, as just Villa in the Premier League. So yeah, and I think the fixtures are kind of it's kind of becoming every week now, isn't it? We've kind of got past the initial three or four every week. So you may see us a bit less frequently, but we'll still be here after a game to dissect, or if not, just do what we did today. Really, we don't want to keep echoing the same thoughts of many other podcasts. So we'll try and keep the discussion fresh and relevant. Any final words from yourself, Dan?
No, I think potentially the most exciting thing about the podcast next week, mate, is that you might see us both with a new haircut. Barbers open on the 4th. That's something to be excited about, right?
Absolutely. I've got to get myself booked in, man. All this back and sides are going.
We need to. That's been the best development of the podcast during lockdown, mate. It's just see you increasingly morph into Steve Harrington, as I was saying. You've done a great job of it, I have to say.
I dressed up as Steve Harrington for Halloween, but the problem was I had a skin fade, so it didn't work. Yeah. So I need to I could do it now. That was the goal, to be honest, mate. But yeah, if you guys enjoyed the podcast, hit the like button, comment your thoughts below. We always like to see what you guys have to say, and subscribe for more. We've reached 1,800 subscribers, so again, thank you so much for that. It's nice to see that even when Villa are terrible, you guys still support the content, and we really do appreciate that. I don't think we can stress that enough, can we, Dan?
Absolutely.
And well done to Dom for his B6 boobs as well. You guys seem to be tuning in and enjoying that. So yeah, subscribe for more and up the Villa.
Just as essential to fulfilling this got potential. It's a main man, a hero. He's the main leader of the gang. Chester. He's the main leader of the gang now. Chester.